Hello. Excuse me. This is Monday, February 20th, 2023. In this area, right now, the temperature is around 49 degrees, going up to 60, with rain possible Tuesday night. Don't forget about the mask if you're going out in public, be around people. And the positivity rate for COVID-19 is above 5% in your area. Wear the mask to help prevent the spread of COVID-19 and its variants. I did check for Kentucky over the weekend. Positivity rate was 9.92%. So a few more decimal points and we'll be at 5. The Sideshow on Facebook and Instagram. Like, comment, and share. If you're watching the Sideshow on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. Sideshow Coffee Cup. You can buy from me for $17 plus shipping and handling. Pay me through Cash App. This morning and over the weekend, there were several articles that kind of caught my attention. So I thought I would share with you. Based on the world map behind me, we will try to be a little bit global today with these articles. So we're going to start in Libya, which would be on this side. That's Africa. And it goes like this. The open slave market in Libya. The open slave market in Libya has been an ongoing issue for years, and it is a clear violation of human rights. Reports of individuals being sold as slaves in open markets have sparked outrage around the world. But the situation remains dire. The international community must take action to put an end to this barbaric practice and provide support to victims. The situation in Libya is a result of years of political instability and conflict. The country has been divided since the overthrow of former dictator Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. Two governments now control different parts of the country, and the situation has led to a rise in criminal activity, including human trafficking. Many migrants from neighboring countries, including Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Somalia, attempt to cross the Mediterranean to reach Europe. However, many of these migrants are captured by human traffickers and sold as slaves in open markets. The issue of the open slave market in Libya gained widespread attention in 2017 when footage of migrants being sold at an open-air market in the city of Saba went viral. The footage showed individuals being auctioned off for as little as $400. The images were shocking and disturbing, and they serve as a stark reminder of the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade. Next, thousands uncontactable as New Zealand grapples with worst natural disaster this century. And New Zealand would be over this way as well. The safety status of thousands of people remains unknown more than a week after Cyclone Gabrielle, a tropical storm that New Zealand Prime Minister Chris Hipkins labeled the nation's biggest natural disaster this century, struck the country's North Island on February 12, 2023. At least 11 people have died. New Zealand Police Commissioner Andrew Coster told local media on Monday morning they had managed to make contact with 4,000 of the 6,500 people previously reported out of contact before the storm hit. Now, back in America, but still international. Ticketmaster's prices for Beyonce tickets were so mind-blowing that these fans are flying to Sweden to see her. Jess McCraney couldn't get tickets to Beyonce's Renaissance tour in Las Vegas, so she went with the next best option, a quick 15-hour flight to Sweden. It was the only place I could get through, McCarthy, who lives in Las Vegas, told BuzzFeed News. After waiting in the pre-sale Ticketmaster online queue for hours on February 6th, McCraney bought tickets to one of Beyonce's May shows outside of Stockholm for $300 because a friend tipped her off about the cheap international option. Luckily for McCraney, Sweden was already on her travel bucket list. I thought, sure, why not? She told BuzzFeed News. Buying concert tickets through Ticketmaster's verified fan system, which Beyonce fans had to do earlier this month, has become an ordeal. Congress even got involved after thousands of fans weren't able to secure tickets for Taylor Swift's Eras tour in November, leading some Swifties to even sue the ticketing site. It just so happens that Sweden, where ticket prices were significantly lower and Beyonce is kicking off her tour with back-to-back shows on May 10th and 11th, became a hotspot destination for fans. Joanne Morissetti, who lives in Orlando, is among the fans heading to Scandinavia to the alien superstar. When she saw Beyonce added a May 11th date in Salina, Sweden, it felt too perfect. That's Marisetta's birthday. What am I going to do? Go to Sweden for Beyonce, she said? That sounds ridiculous. Then again, floor tickets in Sweden were just $95. And Marcetta hasn't been on vacation in years. All of a sudden, her decision was made. Marcetta would travel 11 plus hours to see Beyonce in Sweden for her 24th birthday. We're all avid travelers and avid Beyonce fans, so it was a very natural marriage. Aisha Upshur, who lives in Washington, D.C., said of her friend group. Sweden wasn't on the top of her travel bucket list, but the Scandinavian show's tickets were $400 compared to a ticket at the same level in D.C. for about $900. Upshur's round-trip plane ticket to Sweden was roughly $600, so seeing Beyonce in Sweden not only sounded like fun, but made sense financially. In fact, Upshur and her 4 friends were so committed to their Sweden Beyonce fantasy that they bought plane tickets before they bought concert tickets. None of us have missed a tour yet, she said. Now to that part that you say put on your big boy pants and get in the deep water. 3 weeks and 39 mass shootings. This is America in 2023. A couple of articles have struck my interest or got my attention over the past week, and it's all related to gun violence, assault weapons, semi-automatic weapons, and to kind of set the tone. The last time this country has had a ban on assault weapons was in 1994, and it was scheduled to go for 10 years. So it ended in 2004. President Biden has put out the proposal to bring the gun ban back, but we have seen over the past year, at least, how Congress has not done that, but adjusted as they saw fit. So here's the 2 stories that kind of touch me. One is about a family of 5, and father, mother, daughter 16, son 10, and another son 6. So they were going to go out, the mother and father, to the Publix to do some shopping and left the 16-year-old in charge of her 2 brothers. So it just so happens that the family's gun safe wasn't working correctly, and family's gun safe wasn't working correctly, and there was a 9mm in the bedside nightstand and a Glock on top of the refrigerator. So somehow the 6-year-old got a hold of the 9mm and shot himself. The 16-year-old called 911 and said that the brother had shot himself and that there was blood everywhere. The next one is coming out of Georgia, and it says 9 children ages 5 to 17 are injured in mass shooting at Georgia gas station. 5-year-old. So this is what I figured I could share with you, because it does have numbers, it does have information, and it's pretty comprehensive. So that's the article. The 3 weeks and 39 mass shootings. This is America in 2023. So it starts. On Monday, at least 7 people were killed in 2 shootings in Half Moon Bay, California, a small coastal community in the San Francisco Bay Area. In Oakland, this is data from January, but it's being rerun. 1 person was shot to death and 7 other people were injured. Also on Monday, an 11th person succumbed to injuries suffered in a mass shooting in Monterey Park, California, as the city's large Asian American community was celebrating Lunar New Year weekend. The scenes of agony and horror are increasingly all too familiar in America. In fact, 39 mass shootings have taken place across the country in just the first 3 weeks of 2023, per the Gun Violence Archives. A time of cultural celebration, and yet another community has been torn apart by senseless gun violence, Vice President Kamala Harris told the crowd in Tallahassee, Florida on Sunday. A lot of us in this room and in our country understand this violence must stop. But now that happens with the how that happens with the divided Congress, vastly different policy prescriptions, and a deeply entrenched gun culture remains to be seen. President Joe Biden urged Congress Monday to pass a pair of bills seeking to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines and raise the purchasing age to 21, imploring lawmakers to act quickly. The majority of the American people agree with this common sense action. There can be no greater responsibility than to do all we can to ensure the safety of our children, our communities, and our nation, he said in a statement. Biden was briefed on the Half Moon Bay shooting by his Homeland Security advisor Monday night, according to the White House. The sobering data. It's bad however you look at it. Firearm injuries are now the leading cause of death among people younger than 24 in the United States, according to a study published in the December 2022 edition of Pediatrics, the Journal of the American Academy of Pediatrics. From 2015 through 2020, there were at least 2,070 unintentional shootings by children under 18 in the U.S., according to a report from Everytown. Those shootings resulted in 765 deaths and 1,366 injuries. An unequal burden. A study published late last year in JAMA Network Open analyzed firearm deaths over the past 3 decades, a total of more than 1 million lives lost since 1990. The researchers found that firearm mortality rates increased for most demographic groups in recent years, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. But vast disparities persisted. The homicide rate among young Black men, 142 homicide deaths for every 100,000 Black men ages 20 to 24, was nearly 10 times higher than the overall firearm death rate in the U.S. in 2021. That means that there are about 393 million privately owned firearms in the U.S., according to an estimate by the Switzerland-based Small Arms Survey. That's 120 guns for every 100 Americans. While the exact number of civilian-owned firearms is difficult to calculate due to a variety of factors, including unregistered weapons, the illegal trade, and global conflict, no other nation has more civilian guns than people. About 45% of the U.S. adults say they live in a household with a gun, according to an October 2022 Gallup survey. How should we define mass shooting? The Gun Violence Archive, like CNN, defines a mass shooting as one in which at least 4 people are shot, excluding the shooter. But what defines a mass shooting depends on whom you ask. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, for example, has cited 2012 legislation defining a mass shooting as 3 or more killings in a single incident. Mass Shooting Tracker, a crowdsourced database, defines mass shooting as a single outburst of violence in which 4 or more people are shot. Every Town for Gun Safety defines a mass shooting as any incident in which 4 or more people are shot and killed, excluding the shooter. Lack of firm definition doesn't help in addressing the problem, and the squishiness opens up room to interpret the data differently. The conservative Daily Caller, for example, has cited the definition of public mass shootings included in the 2013 Congressional Research Service report that is so narrow it only defines 78 of them between 1983 and 2012. A 2019 research paper published in Injury Epidemiology put a spotlight on this issue. Gun Violence Archive recorded the most mass shooting incidents at 346 incidents in 2017, while Mother Jones only recorded 11 cases. The author's conclusion, establishing a definition for mass shooting will improve the quality of analysis being completed. This could lead to an improvement in not only public awareness and understanding of mass shooting facts, but also arguments to policy makers for legislation that could alleviate the burden that mass shootings place on society. Remember, we are alone. It certainly doesn't have to be this way. Countries that have introduced laws to reduce gun-related deaths have achieved significant changes, a previous in-depth CNN analysis found. Australia, less than 2 weeks after Australia's worst mass shooting, the federal government implemented a new program banning rapid-fire rifles and shotguns and unifying gun owner licensing and registrations across the country. In the next 10 years, gun deaths in Australia fell by more than 50%. A 2010 study found the government's 1997 buyback program, part of the overall reform, led to an average drop in firearms suicide rates of 74% in the 5 years that followed. South Africa. Gun-related deaths almost halved over a 10-year period after new gun legislation, the Firearms Control Act of 2000, went into force in July 2004. The new laws made it much more difficult to obtain a firearm. New Zealand. Gun laws were swiftly amended after the 2019 Church Christ Mosque shootings. Just 24 hours after the attack in which 51 people were killed, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern announced that the law would change. New Zealand's parliament voted almost unanimously to change the country's gun laws less than a month later, banning all military-style semi-automatic weapons. And last, Britain. tightened its gun laws and banned most private handgun ownership after a mass shooting in 1996, a move that saw gun deaths drop by almost a quarter over a decade. But America's gun culture is a global outlier. For now, the deadly cycle of violence seems destined to continue. That's it. Hashtag